The mid lumbar take care of pretty much our belly and our back muscles so we can flex and bend side to side and twist and all that sort of stuff. And then we run into lumbar, which are going, some of the sacral, which are going to take care of our legs and genitals and that sort of stuff. We start up here in the bike. They run down through the court and they exit at the correct area. Tell me that crappy. Now someone sat back and designed it. But anyway, these are called spinal nerves. We'll get into this model here, but I just want you to understand that these make up your radial nerve, your medial nerve, your ulnar nerve, your sciatic nerve, your anterior tibial nerve, all these nerves that we have, okay? They make them up. In fact, that's why there's two bulges. One here at your cervical thoracic area and one down here at your lumbar area, because we have arms to take care of, more nerves, all right? We have legs to take care of, more nerves. So cervical spinal nerves, there are 8 of them. 7 cervical vertebrae, 8 cervical spinal nerves, 1 extra, okay? First 8. And we have 12. And we have 5 in the lumbar and 5 in the sacral.
Well, it's the same as the...
I eat breakfast at 7, so, and you gotta add 1, okay? Or you could just eat breakfast late and eat at 8. And what time do we have lunch? 12. There's 12 of these. What time do we have dinner? 5. Okay, there's 5 of those. Okay, and then you gotta remember 5 sacral. So that runs, oops, sorry, that takes care of
the same list.
that. Now we need to get into dorsal root. So this is a blow up, just like this, okay? So your dorsal spinous process, like the dorsal fin of a fish, right here, here it is here. So let's look at, if I grab this, it's the same as me grabbing this right here, on the spinal nerves, okay? They're mixed. Spinal nerves are mixed. What does Coach Gray mean by that? Both motor and sensory. Motor and sensory separate though when they get real close to the vertebrae. Here you go, we'll look at them. Okay, see them? They separate into a, I'm going to give you 3 terms for this. They all mean the same thing. Dorsal root, afferent, sensory.
So pay attention to dorsal root, because if we say anything else, we might get it wrong.
But I might talk to you in terms of, dorsal root is more anatomical location, afferent is more function. It's bringing in sensory impulses. Does that make sense, Lindy?
Yeah, because we just
And that's fine to
arrived.
record me if any of you guys want to record, or if she records and you guys get their, what is it, Facebook account, you can just, I mean, I don't know how to do that crap, but it just amazes me what you guys can do with them. But I have no problem with any of that at all. So it's located dorsally. This is the dorsal root, okay? It is responsible for sensory impulses, or afferent. This root that's underneath, this is coming from the brain down. This is a motor root. This is called the ventral root. Or it's also called efferent or exciting root.
What?
E-X-I-T-I-N-E.
Exciting.
Exciting, I-N-G.
ING.
Exit. Just
Exciting.
Okay. So I just, sometimes I'll say dorsal or ventral root, but sometimes I'll say the afferent or the efferent. And then I'll make it real easy on you and I'll say sensory or motor. Okay. Sensory's dorsal, motor's ventral. See this little swelling? Every one of these spinal nerves has this swelling. It's called the dorsal root ganglion. That's where all okay. Go ahead.
Oh, dorsal because it's on the back.
Yeah.
That's why. That's how you know which.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Sorry.
Like the dorsal fin.
Answer my own question.
Okay. Good question. So, dorsal root ganglion is where all the cell bodies are for the sensory nerves, right? Because look at, this is mixed. This is mixed, right? And it separates. You see the V here? So we know that this is motor. That leaves this. That swelling is all the cell bodies for all the sensory neurons, the hundreds of thousands of them coming in this particular spinal nerve. Why is that important to know that that's the cell body? What's unique about that? What's located in the cell body?
Nucleus?
Good. Very good. What's in the nucleus?
I don't get why you're saying that's the cell body. That's not, it's a nerve.
Well, it's part of the nerve. You remember how an axon goes?
Yeah, but I thought,
You got cell body, you got dendrites, you got axons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you and I were looking, who was I looking at the structures of bipolar, unipolar, multipolar with? Someone. Okay. And the unipolar is that right there, where you've got the nerve running through like that. Here sits the little cell body with a single connection, unipolar, okay? That's the way this is. So, what's important about that? Why do I even mention it? You're on track. It's the nucleus. It has the nucleus. What's inside the nucleus? All the
DNA.
All the DNA, guys. So, if I cut my hand off out here, how in hell am I going to get the genetic code to repair that from here? I'm not. That's why you cut a hand off, you got to pay big bucks for the neurosurgeon to put it back on and to put it back on right. Make sure they hook up the right nerve to the right nerve, okay? Because you're not going to get any help from this. Motor's even worse because all your motor cell body up here. So when I cut that hand off, I not only got to get sensory and motor of the radial, the ulnar, the brachial, musculocutaneous, and all those nerves, but I got to get them the right way. Because if I twist it 180 degrees, you'll be numb. And you always hear about people saying, yeah, after that, you know, they've lost a toe, finger, hand, something like that. Hey, I'm a little numb right here. That's because the doc didn't get it 100%. You know, like that. They got offset a little bit, and so these parts just die and they become numb. But that's beyond the scope of this. But it's kind of interesting, and I just kind of I always try and take you guys past the level that I want you at. So, dorsal root, ventral root, afferent root, efferent root, sensory root, motor root, dorsal root, ganglion. Okay. Where are the cell bodies for motor? Where? No, motor. Cell bodies for motor. You're right, the sensory
Ventral?
is the dorsal root ganglion. Where? Where in the sensory? Where are the cell bodies for motor?
Oh, wait.
Bingo. Yep, very good. In the head. Okay. All right, good job. So, central canal. Remember Ms. Schmidt, she talked about CSF flow and how it comes. It's made in the floor of the lateral ventricles or four ventricles. It flows through the middle and it goes down the cord, the central canal. See that little black spot? In the middle of the cord right there. That's it. Teeny little thing like that. And all that CSF comes down there and then it comes back up outside the arachnoid and it gets moved by the arachnoid villi. So, central canal. Let's move over here and go through this. Guys, do not worry about all of this. We're going to go through it. You saw all these branches coming off of here, and then we'll cover those later. Okay? I just want you to understand the root. Okay, so here we go. We have a brain. Olfactory. What's that? It's smell. There it is. There's the olfactory bulb. Those have the chemical receptors built into it that, like when you smell hydrogen sulfide, you ever smell that? It stinks. Okay, it hooks on right there. It stimulates certain receptors, stimulate certain cerebral neurons that stinks as opposed to rose. Okay? And we've kind of had to learn that. Because if you watch a kid, a baby, that is smelling something for the first time, really has no reaction. Okay? But then mom will go, ooh, that stinks. And so it's a learned response. we could really screw the kid up and tell him, hey, hydrogen sulfide, hydrogen sulfide, oh, wonderful smell. Roses, ooh, that's the, and they would react like that. So anyway, where'd my thing go? Right here. You're fine, you're fine. Okay, the optic chiasm. Right eyeball, left eyeball. Optic nerve leaves the eyeball and crosses. Brain. What you're seeing with your right eye is actually being interpreted on the left back side of the visual cortex. So here's your brain, sitting right there. And your eyeball, your right eyeball's right here. Here's what happens. It goes through, crosses over at this optic chiasm. See that white material right there? That's crossing over the optic nerve.
That's an
Right,
X.
right there. Yeah, it's an X, and it's going to be interpreted on this back side of the visual cortex. Your visual cortex is back here. Okay? That's why a blow to the back side of the head can temporarily blind someone, because you hit that area, you knock those, you short circuit it for a while, and it knocks it out. Okay, but that's the optic chiasm. See that white? That's the actual right optic nerve going to the left side, and the left optic nerve going to the right side. They actually cross like that. That's the optic chiasm. Olfactory bulb, optic chiasm. You're going to see the brain has raised portions. It looks like worms. Okay, the raised portions are called gyrus. The depressed areas, they have that dark material in there, are called sulcus. This brain had this fissure built into it, and I just happened to go ahead and cut all the way through it. But that fissure is called the medial longitudinal fissure. It's the only fissure you're going to have to remember. Know it. Medial longitudinal fissure. Cerebrum. You look at this, you have the cerebrum is the large interpretive area of the brain. This is a sheep brain. So humans have these massive frontal lobes that are 10 times the size of that. And aliens have got another 10 times the size of that, okay? But we have larger frontal cortices, and that's where a lot of, was that right, moral values, that sort of stuff comes from, okay? But this is called the cerebrum, or the cerebral hemisphere. There's another little guy back here. It looks almost like another brain. See this? It's called the cerebellum. Its responsibility is to coordinate all skilled motor movement. So, I'll tell you a story real quick, not the one you're wanting, but I'll tell you that eventually one of these days. We had a cat that lived in the teaching hospital at Colorado State where I went. His name was Blackie. And his mom had feline distemper while she was pregnant with Blackie. When that happens, especially in the second trimester, the cerebellum doesn't form at all. So Blackie didn't have a cerebellum, normal in every other way. So we'd keep Blackie in a cage, and he had to be fed, okay? And we would open the cage door, and he would stand up like that, and he'd blink, and he'd shake his head like that, like, get ready, I'm gonna go. And then he'd start to go, and he'd lift both legs and arms up on the same side, and he'd wobble, and he'd like this, and it was like this. He'd go past his food, run into the wall, turn around, come back, and then eat. And while he's eating, there's the food. Smash into the floor. He had no coordination. He had no skilled motor movement at all because he didn't have a cerebellum. So when you hear cerebellum, I want you to think of skilled motor movement, whether that's walking, picking something up, eating, anything that takes motor. That's what Blackie didn't have. That's the importance of that cerebellum. Think about NFL running backs, how some of the moves that they do so quick and so repetitively, how big their cerebellums are. See this white matter inside the cerebellum there? It looks like a tree. It's called the arbor tree vitae of life, tree of life. That white, and that's on your, I think that's on your sheet too.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so now let's go through the brainstem. So this is all spinal cord, right to that first lobe right there. Spinal cord. Medulla oblongata. Pons. Midbrain. once again. Spinal cord. Medulla oblongata. Pons. Midbrain. Now I want to get a really good one. Yeah, there's one. Okay, look at this. Tell me if I'm imagining this. Doesn't that look like a ball there? Does it? That's the thalamus. Ms. Schmidt talked to you about the impulses coming up, and the thalamus is responsible for sending it to the correct area of the cerebral cortex. This is, there it is. There's the thalamus right there. Below it, right here, hypothalamus. That's where a lot of your set points are. So how many have ever been like really hot and sweat? Or really cold and goosebumps? Those are coming from the set points in the hypothalamus, right below the thalamus. Here's your thalamus. So there's this kind of nondescript area right here called the hypothalamus. All your set points are there. Even your set points, well, I don't want to get into that. Your set points are there, okay? It's the hypothalamus. So thalamus, the ball, and right below it, the hypothalamus. This used to have a pituitary gland. That's right below here. And you probably saw that on the model. Okay, it gets ripped off. It costs like an extra $35 a brain to get the pituitary gland because it sets in its own little bony protection area. Who remembers the name of that? Oh, I will so give you an A for the day if you remember the name of that bony structure.
The what?
Around the pituitary gland.
That holds the pituitary. What is it, Ms. Schmidt?
Sella
Turcica. Okay.
Heck no, I wouldn't remember that.
I think it's a pretty name. That's hard
Yeah.
to
I
Solaturcica.
can do it, midbrain.
The lateral
Okay.
ventricle is that hole, right? It's like
Lateral-
right there.
Yes. Yep. And you have 4 ventricles in the brain. That's how the CSF gets around inside the brain. And that lateral ventricle, I'm sticking the hemostats in there right now. See that? It's a pretty good large structure. Let me. Ooh. Got it. What's that? Got it right out of here. We got it right off the floor of this lateral ventricle. Right there. Look at it. It doesn't look like a hole. It looks like snot. Kind of looks like a booger.
Oh, it's that.
It's not on your list. That's your blood-brain barrier. You've heard of the blood-brain barrier? how it's-
Astrocytes.
That's one of the reasons you get a brain abscess and you're in trouble because not many antibiotics cross this blood-brain barrier. There it is, right there. Sits right in the floor of that lateral ventricle. It's blood on this side, circle of Willis coming from the carotids, pulsing blood up, and that blood-brain barrier is stay back, red blood cells, see protein go through, your serum go through, and they make CSF. So it's literally blood on one side and CSF on the other. Okay, I'll shut up and get down here. Lateral ventricle. Oh, I wanted to point out the roof of the lateral ventricle. So there's a lateral ventricle. You see this roof right there? That's the roof of the lateral ventricle. That's called the corpus callosum. If you cut that corpus callosum, that's called a lobotomy. You ever heard that?
It's this thing, right? Like that thing.
Right
that
off the
white.
top. Yeah, that
swirly
white.
thing.
Yep, yeah.
Okay.
That's what connects left cerebral hemisphere to right cerebral hemisphere, and vice versa. And if you cut that, you go no response. Have to be force fed. You go drone. One flew over this cuckoo's nest. That's what they did to Nicholson at that, and because you get, that's what they used to do in psychology. You'd get these schizophrenic, uncontrollable patients, and they'd just do a lobotomy on them and shut them down. So anyway, got that. Corpus callosum, arbor vitae. Okay, the medulla, the pons, and that's called the brain stem collectively. All right. Did the lateral ventricle, meninges. We did the thalamus and hypothalamus.
Looks like string cheese.
Where did that? Oh, here it is. Here's the spinal cord. Here's the meninges around it. You can't tear it. It's tough. That's the dura mater of the meninges. The pia mater, remember, is stuck. That's what makes this so shiny. It's stuck to that. If you were to try and scrape that pia mater off, you're going to scrape the noodle off too. And in between there is the arachnoid. and
That's the
central
spinal
nervous
cord?
system.
Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
this is spinal
What
cord.
is this?
That's spinal cord.
Oh, it's so weird looking.
Look at,
It does not look like our charts at all.
here's the, let me get oriented here.
Just saying.
It's like this, okay?
Literally looks like
So,
string cheese.
look at this. Those are ventral roots right there. These are dorsal roots right here of an actual cow cord. This is a cow cord. So you can see the dorsal and ventral roots on the cord. You saw the meninges or layer of the meninges. The only thing we didn't hit was the pineal gland. And that's right here. Right at the back side of the ventricle, right there. Like a little pine nut. Right there. Can you see that?
Yep.
Pineal gland is responsible for your circadian rhythm. Tired, go to sleep, wake up in the morning, and it's tied into sunlight, the amount of light that's actually being caught by the eyes, and builds up melatonin. And then when you get so much melatonin, the only way you're going to get rid of it is to close the eyes and go to sleep. And then the melatonin is broken down, and then we start the whole cycle all over again.
It's so weird.
Yeah, you tell me this crap involved. There's so much going on. The more you learn about the human body, the more you will learn that it was designed, not evolved. Any questions? And next week, you'll be going through this on your own. And we'll walk around and help you, okay?